everyone and welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. My name is Katarina. Today's video is going to be a painted palette update. I have been panning the Anastasia Beverly Hills Modern Renaissance eyeshadow palette officially since January 2020, and even before that I was kind of like unofficially working on this for a couple of months. So painted palette is a project where you're trying to pan a palette, and the project is created by Amber F, so she is linked down below as always. Let's just get into my progress. I'm going to show you what my palette looked like a month ago and what it is looking like right now. So here is the palette right now. So as you can see, there's two shades left, and actually there is quite a bit of progress with these shades. So if you have been watching my painted palette updates so far, you can probably guess that I wasn't really able to make this much progress just by using these two as eyeshadows. There was way more left in the last update, and in the last update I was still kind of thinking that okay, I'm going to use these eyeshadows, and even if it takes longer than until the end of this year, I want to use this palette up just as eyeshadows. However, I changed my mind since filming the last update. One of you actually asked if these shades are too pigmented for me to use as blush. From that I got an idea that I actually want to create some Franken cheek products, and that is what I have been doing, and that is how I was able to get this much progress with these products. Because I'm just starting to be at the point where I want this palette out of my life. As I said, I have been officially panning this since January of 2020. However, if I consider the few months before that I was already working on this palette, it has really been about 2 years that I have been working on this. And I'm just starting to be a little bit sick of this palette. I do want to really downsize my makeup collection, and I do want this palette out. I'm going to do whatever it takes to get it used up this year, and one thing that I need to do is Franken some products. So I have created a Franken Blush and also a Franken Bronzer. I actually tried to create two Franken blushes, but one of them ended up being a little bit of fail. So to that blush I was trying to mix all of my elf baked blush in Rich Rose and also a little bit of red ochre, and I posted about this on Instagram. So I had the mix ready to be repressed, and of course right then and there I knocked over the entire thing and I lost all of the product. I'm not that sad about losing the elf blush. It used to be my favorite blush, but it really had expired. Like the pigmentation just wasn't there anymore and it had gone quite dry. What I am maybe a little bit more sad about is that I lost some product on red ochre, but it is what it is. It wasn't too much of product, and you know, anyways, there's still plenty of product left, and I can tell you that even though I do enjoy the shade, I do enjoy wearing it, it's not a shade that I'm going to miss at all whenever I get the palette out of my collection. I do have other similar sort of shades in my collection, so yeah, I lost a little bit of that, but it's okay. However, I did create another Franken Plus, this one with a better success. Over here I do have some of my Milani Luminoso mixed with Real Gar, and I actually really do like this. I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of Luminoso anymore. I know it's such a cult classic, and I do think it's a really beautiful peachy blush, don't get me wrong. I think it's absolutely stunning. The formula is amazing. It's like a beautiful glowy but not glittery formula. But the thing is that the color itself is just a little bit too peachy for me. So I'm someone who would maybe prefer something more soft and neutral that leans just a little bit of peachy, or then something that leans a little bit more on the burnt orange side. And I think mixing some of Luminoso with Real Gar actually made my perfect kind of like peachy orangey sort of fall blush. And here it is. This is what I'm wearing today. It is pretty intense. Normally I do go for a little bit more of a subtle blush, but you know what? I'm enjoying it and I think it works perfectly. This blush I also rolled into my Team Project pan, and I'm actually pretty sure that this blush will be finished before the November's update of Team Project pan. And then I did create a Franken Bronzer. So the Franken Bronzer is living in my The Balm Bahama Mama compact, and I did mix here a couple of my more affordable bronzers. So the e.l.f. Primary Infused Bronzer, and then one bronzer from Essence, and then I do have here a little bit of red ochre and quite a bit of Real Gar. I am wearing this bronzer right now and I know it's super warm. Normally I wouldn't necessarily go for this warm of a bronzer. I do think it looks pretty, I don't think it looks too bad, but my preference would just be a little bit more on the neutral side. But you know what, it works. This one I think it's going to take a little bit longer time for me to finish than the Franken Blush, but I'm sure I can finish it this year. And let me show you the palette still quickly. I still don't think that I could finish this amount of these eyeshadows this year. Maybe if I wore an orangey eyeshadow look every day, maybe I could get Real Gar done. The thing with Real Gar is that it is way more hardly pressed than Red Ochre. Red Ochre is clearly more powdery. But with Real Gar, even though I use it almost every day, the progress that I'm making is slower. So I'm not sure if I can finish it by using it as an eyeshadow. I might get close, but I don't know. Anyways, Red Ochre, I don't think I could finish this year by using it as an eyeshadow, just because there is still so much product left. So what I have decided is that I'm going to keep working on this palette, and I will try to use them as eyeshadows as much as I can. I do have usage goals for next month at least. And then in the end of the year, before filming the finale, if there is something left, I'm going to create another Franken Blush just to get the palette out of my collection and to call it an empty, even if I then have a little bit of product in a blush compact. Or another option would be to create another Franken Blush whenever this one is gone. I really don't think this is going to take too much longer than a month because it's such a thin layer and I have already made so great progress. So maybe if I create another Franken Blush somewhere in November, maybe then I could actually use the entire thing up this year and I wouldn't be left with a Franken Blush for next year. But we'll see. Anyways, what I know for sure at this point is that I do not want to see this palette anymore in my makeup collection when I'm going to film my makeup inventory next January. So yeah, that is where I am with this palette right now. In September I didn't tally my uses, I started tallying them. However, when I started the frankening process, I thought it doesn't really make sense to track my uses because it really doesn't tell that much, because I took huge chunks out of the shades to create the Franken products. However, in October I'm not going to be doing any frankening with this. I might do in November, as I said, another Franken Blush. But in October I am just going to be using this as an eyeshadows, and I do have a usage goal. My goal would be to use both of these shades 20 times as eyeshadows this next month. So I know it's a lot of uses, but thankfully I can wear these eyeshadows in same looks if I want to. And also if I want to go for a cooler toned look, Red Ochre actually goes really well with that kind of looks. It is an interesting shade because it appears really warm when I pair it with a warm toned look like today. I'm wearing both of these on my eyes, but then again if I pair it with really cool toned eyeshadows, it's really not that warm at all. So it is a more versatile shade from these. But as long as I do have Real Gar here, the looks are going to be for the most part pretty warm. But that's okay for me because we're in fall and I do enjoy warm looks during fall. But yeah, 20 times I want to use both of these shades during the next month. let's still talk about my companion palette. So since I do have only 2 shades left in the palette, I each month want to pick a companion palette for my Pantone palette. So for September, my companion palette was actually my Build Your Own palette. So this is a magnetic palette from Tarte. I do have here kind of like end of the summer, beginning of fall sort of color story. I need to switch it up to be truly fall, and that is going to happen soon. But yeah, I made quite good progress with a couple of these shades. So these two over here are depotted from the BH Cosmetics Carly Bible Deluxe Edition palette, so the 2 first shades. And I had a little bit of pan on this shade, where there's a huge pan right now, and I didn't have pan on the other shade, so I did hit pan on that. However, I did hit it before filming my Pantone's eyeshadows update, so if you watched that video, you know already that I was able to hit pan on this. The orangey shade I am wearing today as a transition shade, and that is actually something that I had to repress after depotting the palette, and it's just so soft and powdery, and I actually think I'm going to be able to finish it this year, which I am really happy about. Then also today I am wearing from this palette this shade on my lid. It is such a beautiful shade. In the pan it looks almost like pinkish, and also when I swatch it, but on my eyes it doesn't appear like that at all. It is more like an orangey coppery shade with gold sparkles in it, and I really do love this shade. And this shade is also from the BH Cosmetics Carly Bible Deluxe Edition palette. The reason why I picked this palette to be my companion palette was that I had 2 eyeshadows in this palette that are also in my Pantone's eyeshadows project. One of those 2 I decluttered already in my last Pantone's eyeshadows update, and I explained it there. It was like a really yellowy, ugly and flaky gold from Colourpop. So I really hated that eyeshadow. And the another eyeshadow that is still in my Pantone's eyeshadows is this sort of like a mustardy yellow over here. It is from Inglot. To be completely honest, I'm not really enjoying this eyeshadow either, and I'm on an edge of decluttering it. But I will make a decision about that before filming my Pantone's eyeshadows, and in that video I will explain more why I'm not loving the shade. Then I used some other shades from this palette also quite a bit, but unfortunately I didn't use all of the shades during the past month, but that's not really my goal with my companion palette anyways. My goal is just to have something to use with my Pantone palette and also with my Pantone's eyeshadows, and I will always try to pick a palette that has a shade in it from my Pantone's eyeshadows. Talking about that, we can move on to my October's companion palette. There's actually 2 shades in this palette that are currently in my Pantone's eyeshadows project, so I'm going to pick the Seattle London Olivia Palermo palette to be my companion palette. As you can see, there is 1 pan in the palette in the brown. I used that as a brow powder, that's why there's pan there. And then the shades that are in my Pantone's eyeshadows are the green and then the peachy shade, and there's actually huge dip there. With the peachy shade I'm going for pan, and I would actually love to hit pan on that shade during October. This is actually the eyeshadow I tend to wear the most on my lid, especially when I do have the shades from my Pantone palette on my crease. It goes so well with both of those shades. And yeah, with the green I am just going for a usage goal of 15 uses. I also do notice that some days I do want to wear a gold all over my lid, so there is a gold in here. This is actually a really beautiful gold. Then the green I will try to incorporate into looks, and also there is this light cream color that is matte. That is always a really useful shade for me. I have been actually using this one to set my eyeshadow primer, and also I have used it as a brow bone highlighter. I don't know if I'm going to be using this corner in here that much, and also this sort of like plummy dark shimmer. Maybe I will create some looks, like a couple of looks using those and putting red ochre there, because red ochre actually goes surprisingly well with these sort of shades. But we'll see. Anyways, I don't think I'm going to be able to hit pan on those eyeshadows. The only shade that I think I could hit pan on in this palette in October would be the peachy shade. But yeah, this is going to be my companion palette for my Plan That palette in October. Really excited how this project is going, and I'm now just really motivated to get my Anastasia Beverly Hills Modern Renaissance palette used up this year. But anyways, that was everything for today. Thank you so much for watching this video and see you on my next one. Bye bye!